Good. Yeah. And I think you're also willing to speak a little about your family, the joys and the challenges of being from different cultures, different racial background. Yeah? Are you comfortable?
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah. Because your family name is very well known in Romania.
I know.
So
that's part of my...
People will be surprised to...
Oh, I know. That's part of my angst of doing this too.
No, don't worry.
Yeah.
You can relax and lean.
Okay.
If you.
Oh no.
This
is more comfortable.
It's up to you. It's up to you.
Yeah.
Well, let's start.
Okay.
Welcome to the starting point, Kennesha. Thank you for accepting my invitation.
Thank you.
I know you had some hesitation, some trepidation, but finally you accepted it. I'm very glad for that.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So, originally you come from a beautiful, beautiful place.
Yes.
Tell us more about that.
Yes, I was born in Jamaica and grew up there, and then emigrated to the United States,
yes.
And lived in Florida for a while.
Tell us, how was life for you in Jamaica? What kind of environment? It was in a city, it was outside, you had a big family, a small family. How was life for you?
We grew up in the country. So it was about 16 miles or so out of the major city. Mm-hmm. There was a smaller city close to us. The major city was Mandeville.
Mandeville. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Been there.
Yes.
Yeah,
oh.
for a short time. Yeah.
Yeah. So I grew up in a tiny community. Mm-hmm. It was interesting. Everybody knew everybody. Never went hungry because there were fruit trees everywhere.
Yeah. So what was the work of your parents?
My mother was stay at home until we went to high school. She stayed at home with us. And my dad was a teacher.
A teacher? Oh,
yes.
So it was a cultural family. I mean, it was a good environment for you to love books, to be interested in that, yeah?
Yes. Mm-hmm. I did love reading. That was one of my favorite hobbies growing up. Mm-hmm. And we also did a little bit of farming. It was mostly for the family.
For the family?
Yes.
What were the crops you were growing?
We did beans, corn, potatoes.
Mm-hmm. So it was a hilly region or it was flat?
Our house was on a small hill, but the farming area, it was kind of a mixture of both. There were some flats, there were some hills. And
so you were asked to go and help with the garden?
Oh yes.
Oh yes. That was a big part of your day.
Yes.
Did you enjoy it or you resented it?
Looking back, I guess I appreciate it more looking back. Growing up and doing it, not so much. Yes.
Yeah, but I think it was nice to go and to pick up fruit or...
yes, it was. It was great. During mango season, all of us kids will go walking miles, just going for mangoes, and we'll climb trees, get mangoes, walk back home, eat our mangoes. It was a good time.
How do you compare the mangoes you buy here to those?
There's no comparison.
No comparison.
No.
So we should change the name for these mangoes. They are not actually mangoes.
No, they're
fake
not the
mangoes.
Same. It's not the same, no.
The size was similar to what we usually have here? Probably.
It's probably similar, yes, but the taste was definitely different.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What are the fruit and vegetables you love to eat?
We had jackfruit, and I see them here now where they're using jackfruit as a vegetarian meat, and I was surprised. We had a fruit called soursop. We had the Jamaican apples. They're different from the apples here.
In what ways?
It's just not the same. It's just totally different. The only similarity, I would say they're red. Yes. And what else? What are the fruits? Guavas. Yeah.
The fragrance of guava is very special.
Oh, my mother made a guava pie once. Oh, it was the best pie I've ever had. I often remind her of it. And she's like, yeah, one of these days I should try to do that again. But I guess to find the guavas with that flavor, I don't know.
Yeah. So it was hard work on the farm? Hard work?
Looking back, I don't think so.
Did you need to water the garden, or it was plenty of rain?
Rain. We didn't water. It's just planting season. We had to plant. And we also had animals. So we had goats growing up that we were responsible for as kids. So we had to take them out
Well,
and bring
goats
them
are
back
very
home.
quiet, very patient. They sit where you put them. No,
No, they don't.
they keep you busy.
Yes, they do. They do. They do. Very busy. Yeah.
Yeah, but their milk is so good.
Well, funny thing, we
You
never
didn't?
milked the goats. No,
But why did
the
you?
cows we did, but not the goats. I don't know why.
What were they good for then?
Well, we reared them for meat.
For meat.
Yes.
I see.
Sometimes when they had the butchering, we'll keep some for ourselves and then share with the rest of the
I see.
extended family members and such. But yeah, I never milked the goats. And I said to myself now, you know what?
That's
Goat milk is
interesting.
so expensive. Why did we not milk the goats when we were young? We just never did.
And so, did you have a big family, siblings? How many siblings?
Just two. I have one
Just
sister
two.
and one brother. Yes.
That was, I think, quite unusual for that place. No?
There's some small families.
Yeah.
There are a lot of large families, but there's some small families. I don't think it was that unusual.
Were you happy with that? Were you envious on families with many siblings?
No,
No.
wasn't. I was good.
I mean, probably families were together and it was like all of you were siblings.
Yes, because it's in Jamaica. It's like you live with extended families. So
Extended
we live
family.
with my grandma,
So cousins.
and there's times when other people lived with us, like extended family lived with us. So we weren't really missing out on much as far as having a large family.
I see. But the community was spread all over, or it was a tight community? The next house was, like here next, or it was far away?
No. There's some of the houses were pretty close together.
I see.
Yes, in our community. I wouldn't call it a large community. Growing up, it seemed large, but looking back now, I wouldn't say it was a large community at all. Because there was other communities close by to us as well. But for our community, it was called Comfort Hall. It wasn't that large.
I see. And what was the atmosphere in the family? Was very patriarchal. The father was the big figure there, or it was quite egalitarian, or what memories do you have?
Well,
Traditional or more modern, or
well, my mother, I think, as far as us kids were concerned, was the authoritarian because she's the one that mete out punishment. My dad, I could only remember once my dad reprimanding us, and we had misbehaved in church.
what were you punished for? You mentioned one, misbehaving in church, like speaking loud or
Yes.
moving
yes.
around.
Moving around, yes. But not at church. He waited until we were at home. When we got home, that's when he disciplined us.
So what was your mother punishing you for?
Oh.
Tell the truth. Kennesha, tell the truth. Reckoning day.
I don't know. It's like anything she thought was, in Jamaica, at least in our family, my mother was very strict on having what we call manners, be respectful. So if we weren't being respectful to her or any other adults, we'll be reprimanded. If we did something we're not supposed to, she'd say, don't go here, we went there, then yes.
No question asked, no
Yeah,
hesitation, no nothing.
Yeah, nothing. We will.
Military discipline.
Felt like it. If we mention it now, funny thing, we sometimes say to her how she was hard on us, and she'll get upset, and she was like, no, and whatnot. So it just, I guess, her memories are different from ours.
So, as far as you remember, being punished, you had a feeling of, yeah, it was just, or at that time you would say, it was unmerited. She shouldn't punish me. What were you feeling? Or a mixture?
It was a mixture. Sometimes I feel it was unjust. Yeah, there's sometimes I felt, like one particular time I felt that it was unjust because what I did was, I felt it was an accident. I broke one of her flowers, like a flower tree in the yard, and I got a spanking for that. And I felt that that was unjust because it was an accident. But sometimes it was justified, I'll have to say, if I'm being honest. Yeah. Sometimes it was justified.
What about religion? You mentioned already the church being a place where there were many requirements and rules. It was the church also a good place for you as a child?
Well, as a child, I grew up in the Anglican church.
Anglican church?
Yes. So it
the
was...
rules in the Anglican church are a little more lax compared to the Adventist church? Probably not.
I'd say they're different.
Different.
And most of the time you're just left to do your own thing, really.
Oh, really?
Because it's not like, oh, you're not supposed to do... You know about the 10 Commandments, yes, but it wasn't like...
So strict about it.
Strict, I would say. But my childhood in the Anglican church was mostly... I remember taking part in the different programs they had, because sometimes they have harvest and different programs where I could not sing to save my life, still can't sing to save my life, but I would recite poems. So I had to memorize poems and recite them, and my mother was so proud of that. That was her best thing. But it wasn't, I wouldn't say that it was strict. Diet-wise, nobody cared. As far as Sunday being the day of worship and keeping it holy and all that, no, you do whatever you thought
it was a church day, but other than that, you are free to do your child play and activities. Yeah. And in church, did you also have a children's story and things like that as a regular part of the worship?
No, we did not have children's story. We had Sunday school, and then after Sunday school, it was the regular program that you were just a part of, the regular program. There was no children's stories, no.
Do you remember, did you follow the preaching?
What I remember mostly is reciting, like, for instance, it seems like a lot of it was repetitive. So like the Apostles' Creed and all that, I remember having to say those. And on Good Friday, we had to go to services every Good Friday, which I did not like because it was like a 3-hour-long service. And as a kid, you want to be, and it's on a Friday, so you want to be out. You don't want to be in church. And the program was always the same, to my memory. And so it was like, okay, now they're going to do this. All right, we're going to sit, and now they're going to do that. They're going to sit. So it's very repetitive, the same thing.
The Anglican Church is quite liturgical. At home, do you have memories of religious life at home? Like reading the Bible or singing or praying?
At home, my memories of religion at home are mostly... we did sing some, because like I said, I lived with my it was my grandmother. She was still living. My grandfather it's complicated, because my mother was adopted by her aunt. So when I say my grandmother, I meant my grand-aunt. But she was my grandmother because of the adoption. But her husband had passed away, so it was just her. And she was very much into the church. So most of what I remember religious-wise at home was from her. My dad was not that religious. He would go to church with us sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yes. But I would not say that he was that religious at all.
Was he a believer?
Yes, he was.
Yes,
Yes,
but not
he
so
was.
much church.
Yes.
Yeah. So you grew up with this kind of cultural Christianity mostly, yeah?
Yes, I would say so.
At what point did you take religious ideas and the call of God in a more personal, mature way?
I would say I was 15 at the time, and there was what we call a crusade in our community by the Adventist Church. And I attended the crusade, and after attending the crusade, I decided that I wanted to get baptized.
Really?
But looking back, I think it was for the wrong reasons, because in Jamaica, I don't know if it's the same in Romania, but in Jamaica, the call to God is very, they don't really paint God as God of love. It's more God, if you don't repent, if you don't get baptized, you're gonna, perish, and all this, hell, damnation, destruction. But calling to you to a God of love, I think, was not there. I don't know if it's since changed, but at the time growing up, it was not there. So there was kind of a fear to it as well. But I had purpose in my heart that I was going to follow. And so I decided I wanted to get baptized, and my mother gave her permission. And so I did get baptized. And because I purposed in my heart that I was going to follow, it doesn't matter where I went after that or what came my way, I always fall back on that purpose. Lord, this is where I'm at. This is what I want to do. Help me to accomplish. Help me to overcome. Help me to do.
Yeah. So you were the only one in the family?
At that time, I was.
At that time?
Yes.
What happened next in this respect?
After I was baptized, I was still in high school, and I kept going to church. My dad, he got baptized soon after. Yes, and my sister has since joined the church, and my brother too he attends the church as well. My mother is still Anglican. Yes.
Yeah. So this change and now this transitions one after another, created some tensions in the family, or not very much?
The tension would come from when my mother would want me to do something, and it fell on the Sabbath. Yes.
Maybe also something about foods.
No, because my mother didn't eat like pork and that.
So that was not a big issue.
That was not a big issue.
Sabbath was more.
Sabbath was more the
speaking.
Yes.
Yes.
And so I was torn because I want to do as my mother says, but I want to follow God and keep the Sabbath holy.
So it became quite hard.
At one point I felt that it was, but once I put my feet down and I tell her no, this, then she respected that, and so it didn't become an issue after that.
I see. Do you think she was also able to do the good side of it? I mean, did you become a better daughter? No. Sorry for asking that.
A better daughter. I think later on, maybe, yes. After I came here, we both were living here. I think later on, maybe in my mid-20s, she realized, and so now our relationship is a lot different. Yes. Yeah. Could you develop that? Your relation, you said, is different, is much better. Yeah. No, you also now relate from adult to adult, and yes, and I know how important it is to show respect and
sure.
and so I honor her with that, and she knows that when I tell her something, then she's getting the truth from me. She understands that. If she asks me to do something, or she can trust me with her finances, she can trust me with whatever she has that she wants me to do. She can trust me with that.
Wonderful.
And so And as far as the Sabbath, like I said, she understands that and she respects that now. So she wouldn't ask me to do something that I felt wasn't right to do on the Sabbath.
Yeah, yeah. Well, sometimes, maybe often, new Adventists tend to be quite harsh to other people. And, not having a great deal of patience, they want to comfort everyone the next day, and that came over, the teen rebellious years, and probably it was quite troublesome at that time. Huh?
Well,
you don't think you
I don't think it was like that.
Yeah, good,
because where I grew up, like I said, in Jamaica, they can be strict to the point of excluding people. And if you're trying to win someone, you can't exclude them. Mm-hmm. And it was to the point of, okay, where is the love? Mm-hmm. And I purposed to myself that, no, I'm not going to do this. And because I remember one time while I was in high school, I lived away from home because it was closer. The distance to travel to school was better for us. And I met this one lady, and she told me she would have nothing to do with Adventists. And I was like, why? Her brother was an Adventist. And she had gone to visit her brother, and it was Sabbath morning, and she wasn't feeling well. And she wanted to light the stove to make some tea. And her brother told her no. And so she said, after that, she's like, I want nothing to do with Adventists. And I was thinking, that is so wrong. How are you going to win your sister when she's feeling sick and you wouldn't do anything to alleviate that? On the Sabbath day, Jesus picked corn. I'm like, you're giving her the wrong message.
I agree that he didn't allow her to prepare a tea, but he should have healed her at least. Yeah. There's something that he could have done to alleviate, her sickness, but he didn't extend that. Yeah, that
and
was
to me, that was not right.
Understanding of Sabbath, and misrepresenting the meaning of Sabbath.
Right.
Yeah. So you mentioned school already. What were you thinking about doing in life at that time? What were your plans? Or did you like school?
To a point, I liked school.
To a point.
To a point, I liked school. It was. I mean, while you're living it, you're young and you're living it. With all the stress going around, trying to do your best and not disappoint your parents and stuff. At the point, it seemed like a lot. But looking back, you're like, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was. But growing up, I knew I liked science. I did not like business.
You didn't?
No, did not like business at all. So I wanted to do something in the science world. So my very first thing that I wanted to be growing up was a doctor. And then I thought, man, that's a lot of years and a lot of studying. Maybe not. I know. It's like, maybe not. Maybe I could find something else. But it was always in the back of my mind. But I knew I wanted to do something with science because I preferred science to business.
Schools were quite demanding at that time in Jamaica, I think.
Oh yes, it was. It was very demanding.
What influence was the British style?
Yes.
British influence,
and when I came here, and I started I was working and going to community college. A lot of the
you already have been there.
Yes, a lot of the stuff. I was like, oh, I remember this from high school. Oh wow. And then our exams were multiple choice. I was like, oh man, this is awesome. Because in Jamaica, it tests you, it's like essays. You're writing and you're writing and you never stop writing. It's madness. Yeah.
I see. Had you the opportunity in those few years before leaving Jamaica to get acquainted with the Adventist community at large? Because Adventism is very strong on the island.
It is very strong. It's very strong and very close. I'd say it's a close community. I visited a number of churches. Like I said, I lived away from home for school purposes, and so where I went for school, I attended one church. In my community, I attended another church. We have been camping once, but the culture, the Adventist culture or atmosphere is a lot different from here.
In what ways?
I don't want to use the word rigid, but they were very. Here, I'd say they're a little less strict, little less
stringent. Yeah.
Stringent. And here is where I think I encountered more a God of love. There, it was you didn't really see God in the Old Testament as one who loved you. Here, I think I saw that, and I found that, and it's what's kept me, because an angry God will only hold you for so long, and then you're like, okay, why am I in this? For what purpose? But a God of love will hold you forever.
Yeah.
So when you encounter a God of love, it doesn't matter where life takes you. When he brings it back to you, then you're like, why am I here? Why am I disappointing this God of love? He's done so much for me. He's called me. And you run from whatever it is you've been going towards back to him. So it's, I don't know if the culture there has changed, but I think that in any church, anywhere, because people complain about the young people leaving the church. Without them experiencing, and joining the church as a young person, without you experiencing God as a God of love, you're not going to stick around. What you'll see is the rules, what you'll see is the restriction, what you'll see is, or feel is that, they're just trying to stop you from living a life and having fun, not realizing that it's not
against you.
It isn't. It is for you. It is freedom.
Yes.
But at the time, what they will see is imprisonment. But I've learned that, and ever so often, God has to remind me, and I'll be like, you know what? Thank you, Lord. I needed that today. Yeah.
Wonderful. So you finished high school there?
Yes, I did.
Started college there?
No, I didn't. After high school, I worked for a year, and then I came here.
Yeah. What happened? Why did you come here?
My mother had come to the U.S., and then I had came after her. She came and stayed, and my father did not want to come because he would have to start over. And being a teacher for many years, he did not want to start over. Yeah.
So the family commuted?
We were split for a while, yes.
Yeah. And so how, when you came here, you were 18?
Thereabouts, yes.
Yeah. It was the first, you came here for the first time to stay, or you had been here for a short time, back and forth, or when you came, it was to stay?
When I came, it was not necessarily to stay, but to visit, but because of the opportunities that would be better for me for school and work and everything, then I ended up.
It went this way.
Yes.
So how it was for you to adjust to a different culture? Fortunately, the language was not a barrier.
Yes, no, the language was not a barrier at all. And living in Florida, it's not like it's a different culture.
Really?
To some extent it is, yes, but there's a lot of Jamaicans in Florida. And when I came here, I met a family who was like a second family to me.
Really?
He pastors an Adventist church.
They were already, or they became? They became like a second family to you?
They became like a second family to me, yes. It was pastor of a small church, Adventist church in Florida, and his wife and kids. And so I started going to their church and stayed with them until I moved to Georgia. As far as the church stayed, but they became like a family to me.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
Kennesha, I wanted to ask you, before going to other topics, are you aware of the distant roots of your family? Do you know where they came from what part of Africa, probably?
No, actually, I'm not sure about my father's family. I need to find out because I want to find out for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
But on my mother's side of family, my great-grandfather, that would be my mother's grandfather, he was from India.
From India?
Yes.
So
He was, we think a sheikh because he wore turban.
Really?
And so he married a black woman in Jamaica. And then his son married a black woman in Jamaica, and they had my mother. But I know, yes, I am 1/8 Indian from India. But my mother's mother, I'm not sure what part of Africa they came from, but I do know about her father, like I said, coming from India. But I want to research the family, especially for my kids, so that they can know their roots and know where they came
interesting. So there is a number of Sikh people in Jamaica?
There is a number of Indians. Our motto is out of many, one people.
Yes.
So there is.
So it was a very tolerant, very accepting society.
Oh yes, oh yes.
What are the traditions do you have?
They vary because there's Indian families there. There's Asian, different parts of Asia.
From Asia as well?
There's even a white population. They're Jamaican, but white. So I guess some of the traditions. See, what are our traditions? We eat bun and cheese during Easter. We Christmas is totally different. Our independence is like a whole huge celebration. It's.
When did Jamaica become?
Oh man, I can't forget.
Roughly.
I've forgotten.
Well, we'll Google it.
Yes, we can Google it. But this is something I learned for school.
Sure.
But I can't remember like right now.
That's interesting. So it was a tolerant society.
It is, but it still had its small little nuances where the fairer you were, the more acceptable you were and stuff, or the nicer the texture of your hair, the better it is. And
what does you mean nicer?
The texture, like the more straight or not as tightly curled as mine. the better it is, or the better you are, or something. So yeah, there's still a little bit of intolerance or prejudice, as you can see. But yes, it is human. It is human. But it wasn't the what you encounter here in the U.S. It's nothing like that in Jamaica. No. I think it's harder here. We don't have the same.
How it is for you in this respect, given your complexion and origin, did you feel like being looked upon in a different way here?
Sometimes. Especially when I go anywhere with Gabriel. Sometimes I get looked at, or we get looked at. But I chalk it down to people. People are people, and they're gonna believe what they believe. They're gonna say what they say. But I cannot let
to some realities, not to others.
Right.
They are familiar with something. What is not familiar is strange, threatening, or whatever.
Right. So
now let's speak about that. So your family name is a well-known Romanian name.
Yes.
How it comes? Give us an explanation.
How it comes? Well, I met Magdiel.
Yes. You call him Magdiel?
No, I call him Gabriel.
Gabriel.
Yes. Almost has it been 10 years?
10 years.
Yes, ago.
Where did you meet?
At the Atlanta North Church.
At the church.
Yes, and we eventually got married, and been married. October will be 9 years now. October
Wonderful.
will be 9 years.
So you're still in the honeymoon. Wonderful. Good for you. You know, as a girl, they say every girl, you know, dreams about being a bride and things like that. Have you ever thought on being married to a white man? Or it was...
Well, I never. Well, I thought about. I thought about getting married at some point.
Yes.
Did not know that if it will happen because they said growing up that I'm very picky. People said.
Yeah.
My mother had said. Do I believe it? Maybe a little.
Oh, we
So-
believe you, everything which is told us, we
Yes.
believe it.
Yes. So my mother would worry. Oh, aren't you going to go on dates? Aren't you going to get married? Aren't you this, that? And so I always said, you know, if it happens, it happens. So when I met Gabriel, you know, after talking with him for a while, it just naturally progressed that way. And you know, sometimes things in your life feels right. So it felt right.
It felt right. It
Yes.
felt right.
Yes. So
So you don't remember having to overcome a barrier for the difference in race and color and culture. Or it was for a while it was. Did you ask yourself?
no, I don't think with Gabriel we had any
No.
barriers with
No.
us. It would have been family.
Mhm.
It wouldn't have been with us. We didn't really have any barriers personally with each other. There's some cultural differences that I'll explain to him. Well, I don't, you know, as a Jamaican, it doesn't, you know, apply or whatnot. But apart from small cultural differences, as far as him being white and me black, it never really was an issue with
Very-
us personally.
Very interesting, yeah. It would have been nice to have him here. I hoped he is able to come. Of course, someone had to take care of the children. I understand
yes.
that, and I thank him for doing that. I see him many times with the children. I think he's a very good father.
Yes.
And, apparently, for him it was equally natural and easy, yeah?
I think so. I think so. Yes.
So, on one hand, you say we don't suffer, we don't have specific problems due to that. Do you think you have advantages, you have benefits from being a mixed family in this respect? Positive things?
Beautiful
Working for-
babies. It's any added advantages. I can't really think of any. I just see our relationship as
Simply good.
just yes, and as any
Naturally good.
as any other relationships. You may have
Wonderful.
ups, downs, and sometimes you'll see things differently because of your upbringing, where you are in life. You see things. So yeah, I don't think that we're any different from a regular couple.
At times when, you know, different opinions, or does it help to think, well, maybe that's understandable, because after all, we come from different cultures, different environments. I mean, lowering your expectations and making you being more accommodating or more patient, because you know that you are different.
Right.
By contrast to those who maybe grew up in the same city,
Right.
similar families. And
Right.
it's more difficult for them to give these accommodations. After, why are you so different? We have so much in common. Is something wrong with you? Yeah. So you allow room to each other, because if there are differences, that's
Right.
understandable.
Right. Yes.
After all, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you for being open about that. But you still feel sometimes people, you feel that after you pass on, they turn their head.
Oh, yes.
And you imagine some
Oh, yes.
some of their thoughts, but you're at peace with that, yeah?
Yes.
Or
I
you
think.
suffer. You suffer sometimes?
No, I think Gabriel suffers more than I
Oh.
do because, like for instance, the first time we took our daughter to urgent care, one of the questions they ask when we're registering is the race.
Yeah. And
I said mixed, and he goes human. Yes, because he doesn't want anybody to paint the kids in a box. He doesn't want them to think, have any adverse ways of thinking, oh, you're different. Oh, no, you're not. So I think he's more, it bothers him more. But for me, I'm like, people will be people. And I mean, there's prejudices everywhere. And so I say, you know what, it's on that person. I'm not going to let how they think and how they feel influence, to change me and influence me to a point where it's debilitating, so
very good.
I just let it go.
You made a very interesting point about the children. Probably you are aware of the fact that one of the founders of this church wrote something about this kind of marriages and advised against them. That was, of course, maybe 120, 130 years ago in a totally different situation. Right. And the main argument she was bringing up was about the children.
Right.
About the children, because they come, without any choice of them, they come in this kind of uncertain status about the children.
Right.
But the situation changed a lot.
Situations have changed, yes, but there's still, battles being fought. But I feel that the church should not be one of those battlegrounds, because as a church, you should know better. Yes. Knowing the God you worship
is the God of all.
Yes.
The Father of all.
It should not be one of the battlegrounds, and unfortunately it is. But praying that will change, especially with the kids, with their generation, that will change, that will not be a battle that they would have to fight. But coming from, as far as the kids, coming from such diverse backgrounds, I think it's a plus for them. They're able to meet more people, I think, and influence more people, and reach more people because of the diverseness of their background. And so I'm hoping that as they grow, they'll see it as a plus and not as a negative, and that they'll take it and they'll make something great out of it, in reaching other people and showing God's love, and that they won't, because I've seen people who have become, because of repeated prejudices or racism, they've become embittered. I don't want that for them. Sure. So our goal as a family is to instill in them a sense of self, a sense of worth, knowing that they're God's children, and no matter what negative things they may face in the world, they can overcome it with positive. They can love those people anyway, they can forgive them anyway, and move on with their lives, living it to the best of their ability, living it in such a way that God would have them do, reaching people, just showing and spreading the love of God, and living their lives in such a way that they're examples, and people can't help but look at them and be like, oh, you know what? The color of their skin melts away, everything else melts away, and they're like, oh man, I want to live my life like that.
Wonderful.
you know, I want.
Yeah,
I want
thank
that
you
for
very
them.
much, Kennesha, for sharing your thinking as a mother. And life is not easy, in any case. But Jesus told us in the world you have tribulations,
Yes,
but be of
He
good
has overcome.
courage. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Kennesha, your work now, you told us a little bit about your dreams as a girl, but your work now is as a biologist for the judicial system, forensic biologist. Yeah. Do you remember why did you choose that specific branch of biology?
I was going to community college, and it's been some years since I've been in community college. And because I had to work, so school took a back to that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was taking classes around my work schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And one day I woke up and I said, if I don't do something with my life now, I'm going to become a bum. And I thought to myself, well, what do I want to do? And it went back to, well, I wanted to go to med school. But then I was older, of course, and I'm thinking, oh, it's years of study. It's just, and to take the MCAT is just a lot of work. What else can I fall back on? In case I don't like it and decide to go to med school, then I could still, from those classes, go, branch out. And I had looked into the University of Central Florida and the programs they offered, and I saw forensic science, and I was like, forensic science, this looks interesting. And so I decided, you know what, I'm going to quit my job, I'm going to go off to school.
So you quit the job to enroll
full time in school.
Wow.
Yes, I had to. And I'm like, okay, Lord, this is my goal. I want to finish in the allotted time, and I don't want to repeat any class whatsoever, because I don't have the time and I do not have the money, because now I'll be on financial aid. So I applied to school, I got in, and I packed up my bags, said goodbye to family and friends, and head to Orlando. And went into the forensic science program, and I finished it in the exact time. It's like I started it summer of 2005 and graduated summer of 2007.
Oh,
yes.
Very fast.
Yes, because I had done the prereqs at the community college. So now I just had to do the classes from the program. So I ended up, there was another degree that I could earn. I just had a few extra classes to take. So I ended up getting a bachelor's in forensic science. And I also dual enrolled and got a bachelor's in molecular biology and microbiology. And then after that, I decided, well, I need to work. So I applied for jobs. It felt like everywhere. It wasn't everywhere, but it felt like it. And it took about a year, because most places, they're hiring people with experience.
Yeah.
So
how to acquire experience?
I know. How? So eventually I did get hired.
You can't go on the backyard to do some experience in
Right.
forensic science.
No, you can't. But yes, I eventually got hired, and that's why I moved to Georgia.
I see.
And that was 2008.
So more than 10 years ago. So how is your typical day of work? What are the materials you are working with? What kind of evidences? Who brings them to you? Describe to us a typical day of work, if you wish.
Well, evidence comes into the lab from local or state agencies, and these are crime scene evidence. So the evidence will come in, and if they require DNA testing or screening, so that we can know, well, is there potential DNA there, so we can test them. So we have screening tests and we have DNA testing. So when they come in, they will come up to us in our section if it requires DNA testing. Typically when I go into work, it has changed. It has evolved so much over the past 10 years. But a typical day would involve performing analysis on items of evidence to see if we get a profile to identify someone for comparison with a known individual.
So actually you get two types of evidences. The crime scene evidences,
yes,
and also samples from suspects.
From known individuals, yes.
To see if they match.
To see if they match, yes.
If they are identical.
Yes, so it could be from subjects or eliminations or victims, but the goal is to try and identify who left that sample of the specimen on the evidence.
Sure. How long it takes, like for one case? Sometimes probably you receive several sets of, several types of evidences from the crime scene. How long it takes to prepare them, to do the testing, to do the matching and everything in general?
It can take some while because
Hours,
it's not
days?
like if you're doing all the testing back to back, maybe a few days, a day or 2 days. However, it's not worked in a bubble like that. You have other things going on.
Sure.
You have to go to court to testify.
So you sometimes
you're
go
getting
to
multiple cases. Yes, we
As an
sometimes go to
expert.
court. Yes. So it's with everything else going on. We at least tell them we need at least a month to finish this testing and to issue a report, because the lab work can be finished relatively quickly, but you're trying to also accomplish other things, and it extends the time, and so it may take a while. So, and once again, you're not working just one single case. You have multiple cases that you have to finish.
Kennesha, are you 100% sure that when you present a report is reliable? Because these reports, I think, very solid evidence in trial, probably more than many other things. So in a way, your work is, giving a direction to the trial outcomes.
Right.
Are you confidently about your
Yes.
work?
Yes,
You
I
think
am.
the testing, the methods, the equipment, but human part, how much the human agent is, in the interpreting of
right. Well, as humans, we can make mistakes. That's why we have things in place to alleviate that. But like, for instance, all our cases are reviewed by another qualified analyst before they go out. So they check them to make sure that there's no...
Every or some?
Every.
Every. So it's double check.
Yes. So you've done the testing, you've prepared your case, and then before it goes out to the customer, another qualified analyst will look at it, make sure that you follow the procedures, and that no mistakes were made and stuff.
So it's not a second testing, is checking the procedures?
It's looking at everything in your case file, all the work that you've done. So they don't do a second testing.
I see.
But they've checked, and all our methods have been validated and tested. Our equipment are maintained. If an issue occurs, we first check it before we put it back into service. So yes, I'm confident in our products that we put out.
Is it stressful work, or is
it can be.
It can be.
It can be
time-wise, or the thought that the destiny, the life of someone is in your hands in a way. What's the source of stress?
Yes. So personally, I take it very seriously because, as you said, lives are at stake. So you want to make sure that you're doing a good job and you're doing it correctly. And when the work product goes out, it's accurate. But sometimes time can be a stress because there's a lot. We have a backlog where I work. We have a backlog, so it's cases may be needed for court and cases may be needed for here or
There's
whatever
a certain
reasons.
deadline.
There's a deadline. And so like I said, you have other things going on. So then you're trying to arrange your work schedule, trying to get everything done. So sometimes having to get everything done can be a stress, and to get it done in a
Do you sometimes need to stay
timeframe.
over hours?
Sometimes I do.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes I do.
Isn't there also an emotional side, especially when you go, as you said, to court to testify? Because I suppose I've never been in such a situation. It's one thing to be in a lab and you're surrounded by that familiar and cold, let's say. Yeah. But when you go to court, maybe you know that this is the defendant, this is the family of the victim, and all of a sudden it becomes very human, very immediate. Is that?
Well, usually when I go to court, I try to, stay to myself.
I see.
And sometimes you are in a room with everybody who's waiting to testify, but I just keep to myself because I know that what I'm testifying to, it's just my work product.
Yes, yes.
What did you do? I did this. What were the results? These are the results. The stress for me in testifying is that I don't like speaking in public. So that would be my stress.
It doesn't show up here. Of course, this is not a trial. This is not a court.
But yes, that would be my thing with testifying, is that I don't like public speaking, and I have to do that. But I see it's as part of my job, and it has to be done. So I do
Are
it.
you also confronted by defendants' attorneys and ask questions? Not necessarily.
By attorneys, yes, defense, unless they're representing themselves. No,
No,
but I
by the
haven't.
defendants, attorneys, not by the defendants.
Oh, by the attorneys?
Yes.
Yes, we get cross-examined.
And, of course, they try to.
Muddy the waters a bit, yes,
Yeah.
they will try, but
To
as-
weaken your case.
right,
Put a
but
big question mark on. Yeah.
right, but yeah, I feel that when I testify, I'm testifying to my work and
Yeah,
what
it's
I
quite
did.
technical.
So it's
quite
it's
technical.
for me. Well, sometimes they'll ask hypotheticals. Well, this could have happened, or DNA could have been there for this reason, that reason. Truly, I don't know. Yes, that's possible, but is it likely or more likely, or questions like that? But I see it as part of my job, and as far as I'm testifying to what I've done, and this is what I did, and what my results are. These are my results. I don't take it personal. They're trying to do a job.
Sure.
I just make sure that I'm doing my job as well.
Sure. Are you attracted on reading in the newspapers, the page with court cases, or looking on TV, or when it happens maybe once in a while to see on TV a movie with a court scene and someone like you testifying? Do you feel that's accurate, or it's the director's take on your work? Do you identify with that, or not very
Well,
much?
it's funny whenever people ask me what I do, and I tell them, and they'll go like CSI. And CSI is a very popular, I don't even know if it's still on TV, but it's a very popular show on forensics. And I go, nope, not like CSI at all. And it's unfortunate because sometimes a jury will watch those shows and they have that expectation. But it's not really what I do. But I did see an episode of one show once that had to do with DNA testing, and this person was performing the testing and using the equipment, and I go, yeah, no, that's not how you use that. But usually I don't watch a lot of those shows or movies, no.
Yeah, we hope justice is done better and better on this earth. We know that it's not going to be perfect. Sure, conviction is that God's justice is perfect
Yes,
and
it is.
also loving.
Yes.
Perfect
Yes.
righteousness, I mean, very correct, perfectly correct, and totally loving.
Yes.
And that's our hope.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Kennesha, for sharing interesting aspects of your life and your work.
No
And
problem.
one day I'm going to interview your children, possibly, and see how is their story,
Yes.
and put it, together with your story.
Yes.
Thank you so
It'll be
much. God
interesting.
bless you and your
Thank
family
you.
and your work. Thank you.
Thank you very much.